Well, welcome to this edition of the YAHOWAH blog. This is episode 18 now of Qatsyr harvest. This is the depiction of the Shabat harvest that is just 14 months from the time of this broadcast in February of 2025. In our last program, I think I poured out more energy, more passion for this message than perhaps at any time over the 100 and some odd shows that we have done thus far. And one of the things that struck me is that Israel, you've been listening to men who are actually repulsive from God's eyes, that are walking around wearing their black mourning suits. They've got their black hats. They look like they're dressed for their own funeral, and likely are. And you've been listening to them for a better part of almost 1900 years. The worst of them are, of course, the Haredim. But there's all manner of rabbis, and they're yapping at everybody. They don't even get along with each other. And for the past 1900 years that you have listened to them, they have fleeced your pockets. They've lifted your wallets and emptied them out. They've sold all manner of blessings and lies to you. They've told you how to rearrange your kitchen and the dishes and everything from how you can even serve your food, none of which has any correlation with Yahowah. They would establish a calendar that is based upon Maimonides' reckoning, when all he did is supply the favorite number of Muslims, 19, in his sanctification of the moon portion of his disgusting analysis, and came up with all manner of contrivances that aren't even close to being true. And you still believe it? You think you're over 2 centuries away from 6,000 when you are less than 9 years. He didn't know anything. He got everything wrong. His 13 principles of Judaism are full of it. And you've just gone along with it. The man that you attribute to the founding of Judaism, Rabbi Akiba, is a scumbag. He's the guy that was so incensed that Jews were off promoting Christianity, which was disgusting, that rather than countering them with the truth and simply saying, no, it's Dowd who's the Messiah, he's the Son of God, he told us he was going to come at this time and fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakorim, all you've got is a crude counterfeit. He foisted another counterfeit Messiah on the world, fighting one lie with another. He brought in the wrath of Hadrian, complete destruction of Jerusalem, the diaspora to Europe. He lied to you, and yet you call him the founder of your religion as if you're incapable of learning. So I wanted to tell you that it's well past time that you stop listening to those in their black suits, black hats. You may not like my colorful shirts, but it's exactly what Yahowah is requesting of me. I need to come across so different than anyone you've ever listened to before, because everyone you have listened to before has lied to you. You don't know Yahowah's name. You don't even know that you don't know Yahowah's name. You don't know that you don't know. You don't know Dowd. You don't know that he was the Messiah, the Son of God. In fact, you don't even think that God can have a son, even though he's said it 3 times. You don't know that Dowd fulfilled the Moed Mikra, even though that's essential to your salvation, even though he wrote an eyewitness account 1,000 years before he endured it in first person, telling you exactly how he was going to fulfill it and what Rome was going to do in crucifying him many centuries before Rome existed or crucifixion was even known. Riveting prophecies. Yeshaya, the most prolific of the prophets, told you exactly what he was going to do on Matzah when your guilt was laid on him so that it could be taken to Sheol and never seen again. You don't know when the next Moed Mikra is going to be fulfilled. You don't even know its name. You don't know the one that follows. You've renamed it after the Babylonian New Year. You've got no concept as to what Yom Kippurim represents. You think it's a day of atonement. You watch the rabbis twirl chickens over their heads. And you got the 4 species for Sukkah. Clueless as to what it all means. You don't know that Sukkah is a return to Eden. You don't know that Kippurim is a return of your Messiah. You don't know that Towrah is the day that you're prepared to receive them. You don't know that Shavuot is the next harvest. You've been lied to so long that you would know the truth if it bit you in the nose. I posted on X and Facebook today an exceedingly somber analysis of how Israel is so lost today that you are actually committing suicide. That everything that you have done in Gaza has turned out exactly as I said it would on the morning of October 7th, when this travesty was playing out. I knew at the time you were going to invade Gaza, and I knew that it would be a disaster, would turn the whole world against Israel, and that in the process you would be counterproductive and manufacture more terrorists than you killed, and you did. And it's obvious. There's no denying it now. You like to think you won because Hamas is a demolition site, but you didn't. They achieved exactly what they set out to achieve. They turned the world against you. And now, what are you going to do? To the last of the living hostages are returned. If you attack Gaza again, you're going to play right into their hands and look like you're trying to commit genocide. Of course, it's not true, but that's not going to change the world's perceptions at all. So, what now? Your prime minister lied to you and told you that he would most certainly wipe out Hamas and that they would never retain power in Gaza. And they're stronger now than they were when you began the war. More of them now than there were when you began the war. It's exactly as I told you it would be. You can't fight a religion with bullets and bombs. You don't even know that your enemy is not Hamas, that Hamas did not perpetrate 10/7. You don't know that Hezbollah is not your enemy, that Iran is not your enemy. It's Islam. And you're afraid to say it. You still say Palestinian and Palestine as if those terms were legitimate. How in the world is the world going to know that it is nothing but a myth? That there is no Palestine, there is no Palestinian, there is no free Palestine. If you're going to parrot the lie, I begged you on the morning of 10/7 to remove the motivation for the flood of Alaska, to tear down the Dome of the Rock and Alaska Mosque. Offer them as a trade for your hostages first, of course. But those scars still stand. You're still calling murderous and malcontent Muslims, Palestinians, as if the term was legitimate. You're still afraid to expose and condemn Islam, even though it's obvious that the entire motivation for all of this is Islam. I'm so sad for you. And then you capitulated. You rewarded the Islamic terrorists for abducting your grandfathers, your babies, for raping your women, by trading scores of murderous Muslims for them. Rather than thinking with your head, you were played in the heart. So Israel, I know that you may be irritated by my tone with you. But my tone with you is actually mild compared to God's. He has been consistent all the way through. He is disgusted by your propensity to be religious and political. He is revolted by your propensity to spit in his face. Not only did you tell him to go away, you didn't want to hear from him again 3,400 years ago. You have never apologized. So, now you got me. Yahweh told you so. Behold, I will send out a messenger, a representative who is especially informative, announcing this message before you, in your presence, within the same dimension, to help you keep focused so that you're observant, closely examining, and carefully considering everything along the way. You don't even know what the way is. Pesach, Matzah, Bakodim, Shabuah, Teruah, Kapurim, and Sukkah. It is not only the way to God, it is the only way to God. And each one of those steps along the way has specific meaning, a specific purpose, a specific time, when they were fulfilled, where they were fulfilled, by whom they were fulfilled, and will be fulfilled. And if you do not know these things, if you don't examine them, if you don't consider them, you're going to remain estranged from God as you are now. That is why Yahweh picked a representative, a messenger, to tell you these things. The door to life was opened by Dod, your Messiah, the Son of God, the King of Kings, and his second of three lives. He took your guilt and deposited it in Sheol on Matzah, making you appear perfect in God's eyes. And then the firstborn, the Bakor of Yahweh, facilitated Bakorim, firstborn children, the following day. All in 33 CE, year, 4,000 Yah, which means the next. Yet unfulfilled. Moed Mikre Shabuah, which is what this program is devoted to, which is what I'm telling you about, because Shabuah is the commencement of the time of Jacob's troubles. And if you miss this harvest, you will endure them. And the upcoming time of troubles is going to be worse than the Holocaust. You know it. You can sense it. In the Holocaust, Europe turned against you. Now the whole world has turned against you. You don't want to miss Shabuah. That's why I'm here to tell you about it. Following Shabuah is Teruah. Teruah, meaning heralds, is your last chance to get out of this world as an immortal being. The following day, your last chance will be to benefit as the adulterous woman from the sacrifice of the anima bara, the bloody red man of the earth, who has been productive and fruitful. He is the man whose clothes are stained red, who comes from Edom to provide liberation for you. Your prophets told you all about who I am and what I would be doing. And they did so in hopes that you would listen and that you would respond. And that for the first time in over 3,000 years, you would speak the name of your God again. You would embrace your Messiah, King, for all he has done for you. You'd come back home. God went on to say, in addition, he will provide you with directions to bring you to the source, to the dwelling place, to the home, which to offer the benefits of the relationship I have provided. God is speaking to you in first person. This is from the very heart of the Torah, Shemoth, names, Exodus 23:20. Right in the middle of telling you the way home, presenting the entirety of the Moed Mikre, these restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony so that you can be called out and meet with God. Right in the midst of this, God told you that he would provide this witness, this messenger for you. This messenger cannot be Moshe. He was already there. This messenger can't even be Dode because he is not a malach. He's not a witness. He's not a messenger. He's a prophet, a king, the Messiah, a Zeroah, sacrificial lamb, a shepherd. But never once is he called a malach. No. The Messiah has a malach, a herald, who is speaking to you now. And he is doing exactly what this says. He is providing you with directions, telling you about that menorah that's sitting over my left shoulder, screen right for you, what each of those 7 candles represent. Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. In the center, Shabuah, and then Teruah, Kippurim, and Sukkah. He's told you who fulfilled them, who will fulfill them, when they will be fulfilled. Yes, Shabuah, 7 years prior, because it's called sevens. Yahweh's return with Dode in year 6000 Yah, 2033. October 2nd is when they're returning. October 7th is when the earth is returned to the conditions experienced in Eden. And 10 days before Kippurim, on Teruah, you'll be given the opportunity one last time to come clean, so you can listen to Yahweh's voice once again. I am offering you directions home, just as Yahweh said when he spoke through Moshe. He went on to say, you should choose to examine, to closely consider this, becoming focused and observant regarding his appearance and presence. You know, you could not have done much of that until this January, just a month or so ago. For the first 23 years that I was engaged by Yahweh, I was mostly anonymous and I was unseen. I wrote the books that you see behind me. 34, I think, on the website, 37 or 38 all total. And you would never have been able to hear me or to see me. Now you can. Because about 8 weeks ago, Yahweh said, you've written enough books. It's time you fulfill this prophecy. Time you speak directly to my people. And so we're fulfilling these prophetic words right now in your hearing. Of your own volition, listen. Through his coal. You know what coal means? Voice. I'm the only one who speaks for God at this time. He said so. I'm the voice of Yahweh at this time. And if you think that's presumptuous, name another candidate. Find somebody else who has been devoted to reacquainting you with Yahweh's name. Find someone else who has reintroduced you to your Messiah, the very Son of God, the Zeroah who fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakorim. Find somebody else who has protected you and risked his life to do so by writing the 5 volumes of goddamn religion. Find somebody that was willing to clear away all of the trash of Christianity and write the 5 volumes that moved it all to the side so that the truth about Dode, whom Christianity robbed of his titles and all of his prestige and achievements, could be seen again. Find someone who has written all of the books that you see behind you to reacquaint you, not only with Yahowah and Dode, but with their timeline, with the purpose of the covenant and its terms and conditions, which no one has ever spoken of before, with the timing of each one of the Moed Mikre that have been fulfilled and that will be fulfilled going forward. Thousands of profound insights, never previously heralded. Ever. Oh, there is no other candidate. And because of all of these things, my qualifications are 1,000,000 times what they actually need to be to validate this prophecy. And the reason you're listening to a man in his funny, colorful shirts, as opposed to a repulsive rabbi trying to reach into your pocket and steal your money dressed in black, because God finds them disgusting. And he has never and will never speak through them. They do not speak for him. I was translating this morning Yeshaya 56 and 57. And Yahweh describes the current leadership, both political and religious, of Israel in it. And he just says you're repulsive. It just, from his point of view, you're absolutely, completely, and totally repulsive. Disgusting. Matter of fact, the first 10 chapters of Yeshaya are devoted to a single theme. God hates Judaism. You know, I keep on sharing this, but it's so indicative of how lost Jews are and how much effort it's going to take. It has taken. I mean, I've been doing this for 23 years, and I've only got another 14 months before the Shabuah harvest. And over that time, I have constantly reminded Israel that while your rabbis are expecting Eliah to return, because it's mentioned in the last chapter of Malachi, and they set a place for him at your Passover table, why would you do such a stupid thing? Why would you do such a moronic thing? Have you ever thought about it? What is the one thing that Eliah did? Elijah. What's the one thing he did? Surely you know it. He exposed Israel's propensity to be religious and political. And every single person that he went up against died. God took him and is bringing him back because he is the most effective orator in the history of Israel when it comes to exposing and condemning the Jewish propensity to be religious and political. And this is the person that your rabbis unthinkingly set a place for at the Passover Seder? Are you out of your ever-loving minds? You know, the average Jewish IQ is supposed to be 115. But you act like the average Muslim IQ, which is somewhere around 70. I mean, after all, they just beat you worldwide in this last war. They raped your daughters, they tortured your children, they abducted your grandfathers. And for all the world, You're the bad guys now. How in the world were you outmaneuvered by half-tards? Not supposed to say retard, so they're just a half a tard. Right around half your IQ. I don't know, Israel. I'm going to continue to literally, I'm blue in the face. I'm going to look into this camera every day. I'm going to turn these lights on. I'm going to do a live stream. I'm going to come into your homes. I'm going to tell you the truth. And eventually, maybe some of you will wear down. Maybe, just maybe. It's going to resonate with a few of you that say, okay, well, yeah, maybe you're right. We've been irascible a very long time. And you're right about that raising God's name thing. And you're right about those rabbis being money grubbers and reaching into our pockets and having really nothing to offer all of this time. You know, you're right. Yeah. We did everything wrong on 10/7. We made a bad situation worse. We are a nation at each other's throats. We're fighting for our very existence and don't even know what to do next. And everything we've done thus far has been wrong. Under those circumstances, maybe, just maybe, you want to give God a chance. Try something new. What do you got to lose? He is God after all. You should choose, as it says, to closely examine and carefully consider. Be observant regarding his appearance and presence. This is Yahweh's instructions right from the heart of the Torah. Of your own volition, listen through his voice. Do not become rebellious. Do not remain rebellious, be a better translation. Towards him, nor defiant towards him. Listen, I don't really give two hoots if you are rebellious to me or if you're defiant to me. God does, by the way, because I'm the only person in the past 2,000 years who has correctly told you, Dode fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim at great personal expense, and you not capitalizing upon it, you not recognizing it, you foisting a false Messiah to negate what he achieved is an abysmal crime of which his father is exceedingly angry. And I'm the one person telling you the truth, pulling away all the religious rubbish so you can revel in the truth, you can celebrate the truth, you can benefit from the doorway to life being open, your guilt removed from you, you're being encouraged to be part of God's covenant family, enriched and empowered by him. God's not the least bit happy when you are defiant against the one man who is telling you this truth. My issue is that you continue to be defiant against what Dode has done, against who Yahweh is. He says, don't be embittered. Don't be contentious. Don't remain bewildered. Because otherwise, God's of the contention that I'm not going to tolerate your rebellion. That your revolting defiance and your repulsive deviations from the established message are going to wear thin. Now, God's always right. And while I'm a long way from that point, God is always right. He's never missed on a prophecy yet. And so a time is going to come that I'm going to be even less accommodating than was Elia. What did Elia do? When he spoke against the prophets of Baal, the Lord, you love the Lord, don't you? When he spoke against the prophets of Asherah, the mother of God, these two cults, and against the king and queen of Israel, the political establishment, he mocked them mercilessly. He was sadistic as all get out. Not sadistic, sarcastic. No, he wasn't sadistic. He was sarcastic. And at the end of it all, God says, kill him. Oh, I would say that fairly intolerant, fairly much so. So how in the world could I be, according to this, less tolerant than Elia? Because there's going to come a day, sometime between 2030, when you'll find me on top of the Temple Mount, a Temple Mount that looks very different than it does now. It will be scrubbed clean of all religious trash. The Dome of the Rock will be gone. The Alaska Mosque will be blown away. Be no Muslims on it. And Elia and I'll be there. And I'll start off with a mixture of sarcasm and compelling tones as well as condemning ones. But ultimately, rabbis and others who are overtly religious are going to continue to say things that are just way too irritating. And I will torch them instantly. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to grow intolerant of the idiots. Taking their lives at this point is a meaningless thing to do, because the idiots would have no chance whatsoever to endure past the Shabat, the Saturday of September 24th, and the sacrifice of the Adam of Torah. At that point, they're all incinerated and washed away. So all I'd be doing is shushing them up a year or 2 years early, so that maybe others might listen. I'll be doing the most compassionate thing possible. Yes, silencing the religious and the political is the most compassionate thing possible. Even today, you have Muslims in your midst, and yet their religion encourages them to rape, enslave, plunder, and kill you. The most merciful thing would be to protect your children, your daughters, your grandfathers, your grandmothers, by overtly exposing and condemning a religion that inspires these things, stopping them. So of your own volition, listen to his voice. Stop being rebellious. Stop being defiant. Stop being contentious and bewildered. Because ultimately, he's just not going to tolerate it anymore. And your revolting defiance and repulsive deviations are not going to prevail. Shemoth names Exodus 23:21, right in the heart of the Torah, where the Moed Mikre are presented. God interrupts his story to tell you about this story, this narrative, the YAHOWAH blog. You might say, wait, that was 3,400 years ago? You mean to tell me that all of this was to tell us today, 3,400 years removed from it, that we should listen to you? Yeah, that's right. I am telling you exactly that. That's what it says. And if you were to offer that question, what it says is that you're not thinking. Do you realize that when Moshe explained the nature of the 7 Moed Mikre, laid it all out for you, and you experienced the first 3 during the initial part of the Exodus, so they were dramatized for you. You got to experience actually what Yahweh meant through them. Your lives were extended on Pesach. You were able to walk away and distance yourself from the religiosity and the politics of Mitzrayim, these crucibles of human control on matzah. And you literally walked through the water, born again, spiritually. Or you could have been on Bakurim. You experienced it all, and rather than letting it soak in, rather than processing it, rather than capitalizing on it, rather than being grateful for it, even on the cusp of the dramatization of Bikurim, as you were facing the sea, you told Moshe, we want to go back and be slaves. You get to the other side, and the first thing you do is start being religious. You built a damn golden calf. And on and on and on it went. There isn't, you can't go 5 pages in the Torah without a meltdown by the children of Israel. You were pissy. And it doesn't get any better. You just went all the way through the entire process, completely ungrateful, argumentative, rebellious, all the things that are said right here. You may want to take pride in the Torah being given to you in this Exodus experience, but when you read the story, there's nothing to be proud of. There was only 2 fellows that made it into the promised land of the entire 600,000 that began. That's how horrible you were. So yes, you now go forward in time, and the chosen people still haven't chosen God. You haven't gotten any better. You're still not listening to him. You're still writing his name out of your lives. You still have no clue as to what these Moed Mikre represent. Got no concept as the purpose of the covenant. You don't have any idea what Yahweh's timeline is. You don't know who Yahweh was speaking of when he had Moshe explain in Deuteronomy 18, about the one that would come after him. That marvelous prophecy. They were speaking of Dod. I don't even know who he is. And it's only gotten worse from there. So now, as we are just 8.5 years from Yah's return, just 15 months from the next fulfillment of a Moed Mikre, if it were not for this messenger at this time, and God speaking through him as a cold voice, not one of you would be there for the Shavuot harvest. Not one of you would benefit from the Towrah ingathering. Not one of you would have any clue as who the Adamah Parah is or why he was there on the Shabat of Towrah. There would be no one for the homecoming on Kippurim. And therefore, there would be no reason for Yahweh to return. It would all be for naught. And so this is your last chance. God recognized that he was going to have to send someone to get your attention. And you may say, well, he should have been able to find better than you. Okay. You won't get any argument from me. He should have been able to. But he couldn't. And so you got me. And you know something? After I've done this now for 23 years, and after we've begun this transition that Yahweh asked me to make from writer, which I think I was a pretty damn good writer. I think my translations are the best the world has ever seen. I'll stack them up to anyone's ever. No one comes close in accuracy or in content or completeness. And I know there isn't anyone that even has 0.1% of the number of profound insights that I've deduced as a result of this. Yeah, I think it was a pretty good writer. It's testament to these books behind me. But you know something? I'm better at this. Yahweh knew what he was doing when he picked me. I may think, and you may think, and we both might agree, that he should have been able to do better. He did just fine. I'm not the problem. You are. And you have been for 3,400 years. And you've only got 8.5 years left. And I'm here to tell you, it ain't going to be no cakewalk. Because 7 of those 8.5 years are going to be hell. Worse than the Holocaust. It's going to make what occurred on 10:7 look like you were bitten by a bunch of wasps compared to what's going to happen next time. I'm sorry, Israel. But somebody needs to tell you the truth. You've been your own worst enemy, and for a very long time. Seldom. Perhaps never. Has there ever been someone has resolutely focused on knowing, on appreciating, on speaking Yahweh's name? Ever. The 4.5 books behind me are all presented under the name Yada, to know Yahowah. And in them, for the first time since Moshe revealed God's name 3,400 years ago, I have explained its meaning and how to properly pronounce it. So, it's safe to say that Yahweh's personal and proper name is integrated into my very nature. So, what more do you need? Why don't we start there? This is again from the Torah. And I can assure you, no one has ever taught Torah as I am doing it to you now, looking you in the eye and saying, this is what God intended for you to know. This is what you need to do if you're going to benefit. Indeed, if you listen very carefully to his whole voice, and if you engage acting upon everything that I say for the benefit of the relationship, then I will be openly hostile to those who oppose you, demonstrating rancor towards your adversaries. I will then require that your foes are besieged and defeated. I wrote a song that said, more terrorists will come. I would stop them, if not for the rabbinical scum. Yahweh's message. Yes, the next 10:7 will be 1,000 times. More jihadists and more aerial bombardments. The IDF is incapable of dealing with mujahideen. They're capable of dealing with planes and tanks. You're not going to be attacked with planes and tanks. You're going to be attacked with mujahideen. Millions of them next time. Yahweh would preclude it. You have his word on it. But for him to preclude it, you have to listen to him. And the way to listen to him today is to listen to what I say about him. Stop listening to your politicians. Stop listening to your rabbis. Stop going about the motions as a culture. You are the chosen people, but you have not chosen God in return. He sent me to wake you up from this stupor, to encourage you to start listening, to encourage you to respond. That is why we're here. But these programs, which now, maybe 1,000, sometimes 2,000 people will listen to them. That number needs to be millions. And you can make a difference. You can be among the first who pay attention, who respond, who return to Yahweh, who listen to these programs, who read these books, who then share this message. Because God's not going to oppose your foes just because I'm asking him to, just because I am speaking these truths to you. It's you who need to change. And enough of you need to change to get God's attention, to show him that you have changed. Now, based upon what the prophets have said, I think that the likelihood is, I should say the certainty is, because I've read future history, that ultimately, some thousands of you, maybe 8,000, 7,000, are going to capitalize on the Shavuot harvest. Maybe another 7,000 or 8,000, after listening to Elia and I speak to you, will capitalize on the Towrah harvest. I'm hopeful that there are some 7,000 of you who will survive the time of Yaakov's troubles, who will be in Jerusalem on Towrah, and who will benefit from the prophesied sacrifice of the animal Parah, as I give my life for you. And Yahweh ignites the flame, unleashes the cleansing waters. And on that very moment, I can assure you, on behalf of that mortal remnant, Yahweh will do this very thing. He will besiege, he will defeat, he will incinerate and wash away all of Yisrael's foes instantaneously, the end of the time of Yaakov's troubles. But you could bring this result on yourself sooner. I can tell you that while Yahweh has been to your future and has seen the sum total of all your choices, mostly bad, and finally one that is good, he'd be the happiest God in the universe if he got one prophecy wrong. If Israel made the decision to return to Yahweh sooner than that, and that there were less Jews who died, and there were more Jews in heaven, and that Yisrael's adversaries could be vanquished sooner rather than later, I can tell you, this is the one place he'd say, yeah, I'd be delighted to have gotten that prophecy wrong. Happy about that? We're going to have no complaints. You have free will. Make it happen. That was Shemoth, the names, Exodus 23:22. Surely. Oh, man, it's just amazing how much information Yahweh gave us and how it's been neglected, because I know for certain no one has read this to you. No one has explained this to you. Surely, my Malach messenger. Malach is a heavenly representative, a spiritual envoy who speaks for Yahweh. Surely my messenger will go before you so that he can help you return to all that has been said and promised. Yahweh made a promise to Abraham. He never reneges on a promise. He's going to restore his relationship with you. You look at Jeremiah 31, he is very clear that he's going to reaffirm the covenant with Yisrael and Yehudah. And in restoring the covenant, he is going to write a complete copy of his Torah guidance right inside of us, right in our hearts, their seat of judgment. And that will be the end of religious and political rebellion. There are more prophecies pertaining to his return than almost anything else. And so if you listen to me and you return before he returns, all that's going to do is make the homecoming larger and more joyous. Yahweh does not tell us how many there's going to be there. And wouldn't it be wonderful if there were 7 million instead of 7,000? And you can make it so. Then the terrorists, he says, will be abolished, including the militants who claim that the country belongs to them and who want to divide it. As they will be humbled and subdued to make this declaration known. Has that happened previously, Israel? Has Yahweh obliterated the terrorists previously? How many times in the past have you been attacked by terrorists? Terrorism is a tactic. It is a tactic by a weaker force to intimidate a stronger force in their home of capitulating to the weaker force, because the acts of terrorism are so repulsive that they simply give up. The Egyptians didn't use terror. They were terrible, but they didn't use terror. They used their military, very well-trained military and war chariots. Same was true with the Assyrians that attacked you. The same was true with the Babylonians who attacked you. The same was true with the Macedonian Greeks. The same was true with the Romans 3 times in their legions. The same was true with the Ottoman Turks. The same was true with the Crusaders. The same was true by the Nazi Germans. The same was true all the way until now, when Muslims are embracing the signature act of Islam, and they have become terrorists. And Yahweh is not only telling us 3,400 years in advance of it occurring that these terrorists would come, these militants would claim that the country belongs to them. Palestine will be free, you know. He predicted this precisely and accurately 3,000, 4 centuries earlier. And it has come true exactly this way. And he had told you, if you just listen to his voice, to his messenger who comes to you at this point in time, that he would subdue those who want to divide the land. Two-state solution ring a bell to you? God's really smart. He knows your past. He knows your present. He knows your future. And through it all, he continues to reinforce these prophecies which reveal that he is God, that he exists, that he can be trusted, and that it would be intelligent for you to rely upon him. And you've done none of those things. He says, I will reject them. I will kick them out. Then I will efface them, annihilating them, causing them to disappear at that moment in time. Shemot, the names, Exodus 23:23. That moment in time is the Shabat of Towrah, September 24th, 2033, year 3000 Yah, simultaneously with Elia as the master of ceremonies over the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah, another bull, as Yahweh unleashes the dancing waters that will flood over the Temple Mount and ignites the fire beneath the Adamah Parah, flames racing to the heavens, extinguishing and washing away all of these Muslim tyrants who have claimed your land for themselves, who wish to divide it. And they'll all be gone instantly at that very moment. And just for dramatic effect, you might want to look up a list of solar eclipses, because there'll be a full solar eclipse at that moment. Just a little celestial fireworks to punctuate the moment. Just like there'll be a full lunar eclipse just 15 days later as we began Sukkah. Do you know that there's exactly 10 years to the day from 10/7/23, your wake-up call, to 10/7/33, the final act in this play, the celebration of Sukkah, in year 6000 Yah, 2033? Do you know? Do you know my name? It's Yada. What does Yada mean? I'll let you figure it out in case you don't know. Yes, I will reject them. I will kick them out. I will efface them, annihilating them, causing them to disappear at that moment. Shemot, the names, Exodus 23:23. Again, right in the heart of the Torah. Again, in the midst of presenting the Moed Mikre. Why? Because this will occur during the fulfillment of the Moed Mikre, where the Malach, messenger, who is the Kol voice of God, is offering his corporeal body to restore all Yisrael. That's not a coincidence. Since the Kol voice of Yah is addressing the means to know Father and Son, to engage in the covenant, to answer the invitations to meet, those who wish to benefit from this relationship, well, you would be wise to closely examine what he has written and then attentively listen to what he has to say. And remember, other than his sacrifice on Towrah, this messenger is just that. He's a messenger. What do messengers do? They deliver messages. Whose message is this? Yahweh's. Who is it for? You. The reason that Yahweh transitions to the Malach messengers, rancorous adversaries, is because by the very nature of delivering God's message, he will be viciously attacked by zealots of religions and political parties, especially those he impugns. You know, since I began this at Yahweh's behest 23 years ago, I've had thousands of death threats. I have some skin in the game, Yisrael. I'm going to have more before we're done. I've earned the right to speak to you. Those who rage against God's Kol will outnumber those who listen to him by, well, 1,000,000 to 1. I'm happy with those odds. And that being the case, Yahweh wanted his people to know whose side he is on. And with these words, we're going to conclude this episode of Qatsyr Harvest. As I ask you, whose side are you on? Thank you for listening.